Greetings, it is I, Tentus Naravan Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and of course, welcome. Today, we are diving into, well, Starfinder once more. It's a tabletop day, we go over these, hey, tabletop day! We're continuing our species guide. We're almost done it. There was about 20 or so left over, so I've split them in half because I don't want the episodes to be too big. So we're going to be doing letters T and U today, which should amount to about 10. So it'll be a little shorter of an episode today, but we're going to go over them, and I will talk about some of the images that took me a while to find, because it was a quest to find some of these images. But I hope you enjoyed going over it. It's diving once again into the Starfinder stuff, and I'll talk about the books that you can find this information, and if you want to look deeper into these, of course. Alright, let's, of course, just get started. We might as well. Portal. Okay. So we'll start with our good little turtle friend here, the Telia. So if you want to look up the Telia, Alien Archive 3 is your source. These creatures, out of all the things in the Pact Worlds, in the known Pact Worlds, have the most complex relationship with the Gap. They're long-lived, with the longest living about 1,000 years. They've been taught that memory is mutable and fleeting for many other species. And so the Gap was just an exaggeration of this truth. Elves live through the Gap. They kind of like stew over their lost memories. The Telia are like, well, that was probably a terrible time. I'm glad I don't have to worry about that anymore. They basically are like, look, if we forgot it, it was probably really bad. Another thing about them is as time goes on, their shells change pattern based on their experience. Each bony plate and scoot is a physical reference of their experience, rating from fine rings in its center, after the worm. The color and shape give subtle clues to their experiences. Times of joy, learning, discovery, basically define the rings then. And darker times were cloudy, imprecise portions. If an individual is older than a few hundred years, basically, if you're older than a few hundred years and are apparent from the scrambled or sometimes totally absent markings at the edge of the scoots, that is the actual evidence of the Gap. So you can actually see if they are very old Telia, marks on their scoots where the Gap occurred, because it is the same kind of thing. It's a kind of strange scrambled gap in their scoots. They have very good control over the memories. They can sometimes forget entire centuries to basically get rid of trauma, or if they want to basically enjoy rediscovering passions and something like that they once had. Most of the time, this memory controls for bad habits, biases, old grudges. So they are very relaxed, genial. Some are basically underestimate things when they're playing around with it because of their advanced age, but most are, generally generalists, and usually ignore prejudices. Seeing prejudice as a basically short-lived creature's kind of idea about it. They don't blame individuals. They consider blaming individuals to basically be an abhorrent thing. So some see this shiftless or incapable of accepting or assigning responsibility. Basically, some of them even go that far that they don't give any responsibility because they don't like blaming an individual. So it can be kind of difficult sometimes. But casually, they'll be kind of look to a nexus point of when an issue has come up and, come up with oversimplified, nebulous reasons to fix that kind of thing. It's the idea you can't blame one creature without blaming part of its community, family, its ancestors, things that are related to it that drove it to the path in which it caused the issue. And in the same retrospect, it also leads then to everything else in the universe to blame in a way. So again, they're very quick to forgive in a way, too, because they kind of have this universal rule of, like, it is what it is, in a way. Story telling is very important to their society, and most are practiced at it. They had a written language long before the gap, but rarely use it as of today. They've kind of switched more to oral traditions, passing it through complex technological information entirely verbally. They have an unhurried approach to learning. So a Telia engineer can spend decades as an apprentice. They do understand that other species do rely on written records, but they would much rather listen to a story than read from a screen. They are curious, and when travel's taken away from their communities, they do take their stories along with them in the form of a video or audio recordings. So they aren't, like, foolish, if they want to take something, they do have audio, video recordings. They just rather tell it in person to you with words. And among their most precious possessions is digital archives of their friends' and family's favorite stories. So that's kind of like a thing. It's like, if I'm going to be traveling in space, far away from my family, I'm going to have what their stories are hidden out. Because if I can't listen to them in person, which I really would love to do, at very least I have some kind of digital recording of those stories that I can enjoy to have that, connection with them. They originated on Paizo, the only inhabited planet in a near-space system. It had coral reefs, continent-spanning jungles, complex cave systems, and a lot of unusual life. They had technological know-how. They were the first in the galaxy to correctly interrogate triune signal and build drift engines. So they were the first to get drift engines. The ending of the gap did prove kind of more disorienting to Telias than to other short-lived species, though. It was only after decades of debate and a small delegation that they first left their homeworld. So basically, though they adapted physically and mentally to the gap, it's the fact that post-gap, they couldn't decide, this meant something related to maybe heading out, so basically where a lot of other species, we have drift technology, we're going to take advantage of it, kind of see what's out there, kind of try to find out, learn more. They were more insular about the entire thing. But again, having been introduced to the broader galaxy, they love the infinite diversity, the life, the experience, beyond that, So they make trips to the Path Worlds and the Vescarium very often. They're about 4.5 feet tall, weigh 200 pounds, bonuses a con and wisdom, penalty to dex, dark vision, erudite, flashback, retract, and they've got a different movement of swim and land speed. That's the Telia. Alright, now we're going to switch to our good friend. We're going to turn that off and turn this on here. And I'm going to have to thank... I cut this from the Maple Table's review of Ports of Call. So if you want to check out their review, I'm just shouting it out because this is the only place I could find this image of this species. I don't own Ports of Call, unfortunately. And nowhere online in any of the wikis or in the archives of Nethys is there an image of this species. So I had to go online and dive deep. And in the second book that they were part of, Ports of Call, they were part of another book before then that introduced them, that was one of the Starfinder Society adventures, which would be even more hard to have. I never gotten Starfinder books since before Ports of Call, so I didn't have that. So fortunately, I was able to snip from their video this image, but, I would say, if you want to look about the Ports of Call book, check it out. They've got a review for it. But it's the Thyr. They're intelligent oozes that compose of buoyant gases who wear containment suits to protect themselves and interact with the world around them. Ports of Call is the book that has them. Again, as I said, there was a Starfinder Society. There is a little bit more about them in those books, but I'll tell you their physical abilities because I do the order usually on the Wikipedia. Most int wisdom, penalty to strength. They're amorphous, gaseous, some telepathy, psychic linguists, thermal consumption. They're swirling kind of buoyant gas with an outer molecular kind of membrane outside of it. They don't have form. They can adopt to shapes. But they're not really very exact in their precision when it comes to replicating things. Sociology is frail, physiology is frail, and very lightweight for a lot of day-to-day tasks. So, in order to adapt to the societies they've connected with, they inhabit containment suits, armor, or other full-body attire that will stabilize their form. Because they're very good in their own natural habitat and kind of things like that, but when it comes to connecting with a lot of the pack worlds and other similar species, yeah. They don't have organs or even brains. They form memories and skills for recombining their gas into kind of neurological chains that float microscopically throughout their bodies. They're able to live for centuries. Their natural life ends in one of two ways. They incorporate outside gases and split into two new Thyrs with childlike intellects, or they stabilize spectacularly like a star undergoing a supernova. So either they kind of get some extra gases and they basically reproduce, and their reproduction is the end of their life. They form two new ones, or they just kind of burst. They're intelligent telepaths. They have keen memories, knacks for untangling codes and linguistic cues. They enjoy logic games, mathematics, poetry, puzzles, riddles, new languages. They evolved in Belthazar 7, a gas giant that scoured star systems. They form, along with a bunch of other species, they form the Creamhold Freehold. And they fled this system to escape an overbearing deity. Only a few recently have returned to their system. With their kind of away from home, they've developed a reputation for sagacy, long memories, boundless curiosities. So, it's only in the recent years they've begun traveling into the wide vast of space. Some ambassadors to the Freehold and its people. And they're often, even if they aren't technically ambassadors, they're kind of seen as ambassadors in a way, because they are the kind of first of their kinds traveling. And they look for information, answers to questions, research project, kind of finding stuff on the horizons, and kind of hopefully bringing it back to the people in a way. So there's the Thyr, Thyr. As I said, they it was the one source I could find for that, so shout out to them in their video for helping us out with this. This one for our good friends, the Tieflings, space Tieflings. So Tieflings are talked about in Alien Archive 2. So if you want to dive into it, they actually have it in there for this older race. Again, it's extraplanar beings infused with... extraplanar beings do tend to infuse in humanoid bloodlines, whether through magic, a tryst, and a lot of their planar science. Aasimars and Tieflings, Sleens and Fiends respectively, are the most common, so Tieflings are a common one. They resemble their humanoid kings. They've got basically supernatural touches. Horns, vestigial wings, cloven hoofs. They've innate curiosity. They're more likely to dally with outsiders. There's a significant percentage of planar signs living in the pack worlds who are descended from humans. That tends to be one of us. Because humans are far less populous than in the pre-gap eras, though, there are now planar scions that descend from other humanoid races, and are far more numerous than their human kind of bloodline ones. They may pass for members of their humanoid's parent species, but sometimes their features could make them much more obvious depending on the circumstances, of those familiar with the normal characteristics of those species. Even when their blood as an outsider is evident, they are accepted in most settlements and pack worlds because of diverse being. The games are going well. Definitely check out Wednesdays for Crimson Queen. They're definitely, if you're on Absalom Station, the hub of interspecies relationship, you're bound to find a Tiefling there. The games are going well. There are sometimes places where there's insular or tradition-bound communities, and planar touched, even Aasimar or Tiefling, it's not really great in those communities. It can be death sentences, it can be a blessing, it can be something terrible, depending on the traditions of that community. Like the Drow of Apose see Tieflings as a patron of their favorite demonic patrons. The Elves of Silvorian or Castrovel banish these children. The Radiant Cathedral trains Asimers, and also guides Tieflings to a brighter future than what their heritage would suggest. I don't actually play a lot of Starfinder, but I do talk about it. I talk about a lot of tabletop, and this is, I usually, on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, I record stuff like this, my discussions on the various topics, for YouTube also, if you want to check them out. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for video gaming. But yeah, no, Pathfinder 1st Edition, which is related to this, is my main game I've been running right now. But I do want to run some Starfinder in the future. I do like the system for me. Similar styles tend to be an outlier. For Tieflings and Starfinder, bonuses to Dex, Int, penalty to Charisma, Dark Vision, Deceitful, Fiendish Gloom, Fiendish Resistance, and they have some alternate racial traits you might want to check out. That is the Tieflings as they come to Starfinder. I do like a lot of Starfinder stuff. Alright, I had found this image online. It took me a little bit to find, but this is the Trinir. So these were introduced in one of the Attack of the Swarm adventure paths for Starfinder, Hive of the Mind. So this was book 5 of 6. So if you want to look deeper into information on them, that's where I really recommend. I try to recommend the books you look into. They're natives to the frozen Ishifos. I'm probably butchering the way that's supposed to be said. They're small android-like beaked humanoids that don't have a history, as they awaken from hibernation chambers only recently as their planet thawed out. And thanks to the gap, basically, and some other factors, they don't have any indications of who they are or how they came to be. So it's kind of one of those strange things is the gap, this kind of like set missingness within Starfinder has basically made these people, because they were in suspended animation, hibernation, lose everything. They're, fuck are we? They do think some of their ruins of their ancient people could be seen in the ice. I do like art, planning to get some art at some point in time soon, but not in the near future. And I'll always keep people in mind, especially looking into it. So this is not time for research, but in the future. Bonuses to con, instant penalty of charisma, biotech organisms, cold resistance, calm unit, exceptional vision, sticking stout, resistant. So that's a Trinir. Some information about them. Now these two images are going to be very, very small. So let's switch to the bigger of the two. Because these are technically thumbnails from Roll20. Which were the only images I could find of these two. They're from the Liberation of Locust 1. Both of these, which is a Starfinder adventure. We're not even an adventure path. We're in a singular adventure that you could do. And they're both the Tromlin species. This is the Tromlin Bloodseeker, and there are currently 3 sapient species native to Gajor 3 in the Aslant vassal system Gajor. Tromlins are bellicose people divided into 2 distinct subspecies who have warred for ages and on the plains and forest floors of Gajor 3. Maybe later, but my Discord is the best place to look into kind of things like that. The Bloodseeker Strange is bipedal reptoid humanoids. The Ancient War is egged on by a belief that the tribes of warring spirits are also warring with them. Bloodseekers eat and kill any being too weak to oppose them. They resisted the Star Empire, but these two were unable to unite, and they didn't really have advanced technology in comparison to the Atlantis Star Empire, so they, each of them individually surrendered because, if not, they saw themselves going extinct. The Aslanti turned their warrior ethos of Tromlin into a recruiting tool, and both became regular draftees into their alien cohort, basically the levels of alien armies in the Aslanti Star Empire. And even when serving the same army, yeah, do I have a Discord command? I think I have a Discord. Do I? No! I'll have to make one. I thought I had one. I might have a command that's similar, but it's one of my linked commands. Might have it. But a specific command for Discord. I think it's one of the automated messages that pop up as Discord. I should have a command from Discord. Yeah. What was I saying? But basically, leadership understands that they're rivals, so they are kind of divided up enough that they don't break into violence. And mixed Tromlin squads haven't been deployed in offensive operations, but working with garrison duty alongside each other has been successful with both subspecies. Effectively, there's been discoveries and ways to make them work together. So maybe, like, the Aslanti are thinking of ways to make them basically, like, fuck, you're working for us now. Give up your fucking hate of each other. So this version of them, the Bloodseeker, have bonus to dex, low light vision, natural weapons, blind sense, it should be linked below. Blood scent, jumper, pounce, and arm strike. Now, the other Tromlin, which we'll talk about for a minute here because most of this information is exactly the same, the Hardshell Trooper, shown there, they are natural quadrupeds, and they are herbivorous that fight against their flesh-eating kin. So, they have a bonus to strength, low-lit vision, natural weapons, armor, talent, carrier, head frill, the natural quadruped, of course, powerful charge, they're slow, bipedal, they can stand at their hind legs, but they're meant to be bipedal. But they are basically... It's two dinosaur species that gained intelligence that are fighting themselves. They're very dinosaur-y, without being dinosaurs. But that's the Tromlins there. Of the two different types of them. And they're very, very tiny images. This one might be huge. Oh, it is, but it fits enough. Let's talk about someone from the Interstellar Species books, the Trox. I love the Interstellar Species book, and by love I mean they usually take a long time to talk about. They're anthropods from Nichak, one of Levarva's moons. And in their dedication to the Forever Queen Hylax, they've ensured their success and never overshadowing individuals' desires, passions, or pursuits. They're fiercely loyal, commit to what they get themselves to. And their creatures, including other creatures, are ideal at costs. Bonus strength, con, and penalty dexterity, dark vision, bulwark, burrower, chitin, frenzy, grappler, spirit further, swift, and vestigial arms. Let's go into detail a little bit about them. We'll talk about their society a little bit, their homeworld, the Dunnet's tales. We'll maybe mention that, but we'll go to the physical description, and we'll skip a lot of this. Like most species from the Interstellar Species, there's a lot of information on them, and if you want to deep dive into them, I recommend Interstellar Species book, or Archives of Nethys does have more information. So, they have undergone, as a species, numerous supernatural transformation during their history of the Pack Worlds. Their bipedal form in the modern day arose from response to a basically divine messenger's decree, being a mortal incarnation of Hylax, their queen goddess, insectile goddess. They are hypothesized to once resemble giant 8-legged beetles. They now stand on hind legs, towering about 12 feet tall. They're large. Their utmost pair of limbs develop into powerful arms. Their middle 4 limbs shrank and now have fractured the strength. They have a pair of sword-like mandibles and smaller jaws. They're basically almost like an extra set of hands. They close slowly and clumsily. They're not really natural weapons. They lay eggs in small clusters and young hatch as nymphs who resemble smaller versions of their parents. They only grow as much as their exoskeletons allow, so you use molt numerous times in a year until they reach adulthood. During the rapid group, they are predominantly carnivorous, requiring a lot of protein. The specialized nutrients required for healthy exoskeletons productions also drive many of them consume old exoskeletons and burrow hunting for key materials. Their nutritional needs shift on adulthood, in which they favor more largely vegetarian diet. So basically, as they're growing, they need meat to grow, but once they reach adulthood, they can live with a vegetarian diet mostly. Once they're fully grown, they only tend to shed their shell a few times a decade, as part of basically shell maintenance. And their new exoskeleton takes about a week to harden, which time they're sluggish and vulnerable. But their soft chitin does provide them with an opportunity. Customization. Their natural color range range from light rosy brown to dark crimson, A fresh one readily absorbs dyes that they would inject, so they can create a variety of patterns, surface textures. Adolescents regularly experiment with their appearance using magic dyes, molds, and incised tattoos, knowing that if they don't like this new aesthetic, they can shed it and redo months later. So that's why youths will kind of figure out what kind of aesthetic they like to it, so then they can kind of have that thing on themselves as adults. So like, I really like this kind of cool tattoo. But of course, if they always change their minds later on in their life, when they shed their exoskeleton, they're like, I don't like this tattoo anymore. I like this new thing here. It's a lot less in their older days. And whatever treatment, their exoskeleton provides support and protection. Thick plates along their head, forearms, and thighs fit together loosely when they curl up, and even when crouching. They shield a large portion of their body. They have a set of abdominal horns. They have kind of a softer underbelly. The vestigial limbs become very difficult to reach if they want them to. And there are only a few sections of the body that aren't covered. The upper arms and fingers have a thin, kind of pliable... I can check it out maybe when I'm done. I'll see about it. So they have some flexibility on hands and still have some muscle space. They also have a muscular tail. That's very similar to an elephant's trunk. Has boneless balance and support. They are capable of lifting and some clumsy maneuverability when they're with their tail, but it's often flat and drags to the ground until they need it. It does prevent some challenges as an exoskeleton. They do have a lot less agility because of the plates and thick chitin, and their size makes it difficult to circulate air through their bodies. They do have a set of human-like lungs sufficient for resting respiration, and 4 supplemental book lungs, 2 near their shell, partway up their torso, and 1 for each of their inner thighs. And they're fed by spiracles. The book lungs help reoxygenate blood, especially when moving quickly or driving additional air through the systems. And they reflectively shiver when these spiracles become submerged, which is a reflex to close the pores to avoid flooding. Their surface of the planet, just to talk about the planet for their homeworld a little bit, is relatively barren, with communities lying beneath the surface. Their dormant Trox dominant settlements are evenly distributed and surround the forever halls of the most populous. A little bit about their society. They carefully balance the dualities of individuality and community is basically for them. They do want to still be individuals, but they do believe that community is very important. And they're guided by the reverence to Hylax, their deity. They do find indistinct comfort in groups and promote the community's well-being, even at the risk of their own opportunities a lot of times. They're peaceful, gracious, and provide their time and energy to their neighbors. The Duergar did enslave many of them in the ancient past, exploiting their community's mindset to compel compliance and labor. These memories of servitude are distant, but they are nonetheless steeled against this kind of thing against slavery, and encourage them to embrace their own personal liberties. So basically, as much as they still are very community, they are, they have been trained by ancient past of others taking advantage of them to kind of push forward and know that there is like an importance to their own liberty still too. It kind of like they will do everything they can for their community without truly sacrificing their own selves. It is still important that they, maintain a level of themselves. They have communities extensive overlapping clans. They collaborate to raise young. The membership is informal and fluid. Statuses are often they rely on kinship, residency, length, and service to the community, and anything that they've done to help out the clan overall. So yeah, there's a little bit more on their home planet and their society and their tales and stuff. But again, for these interstellar species, but because they're so big, I tried to limit what we talk about to a degree. So we'll leave it there for them. So I think I've got one more interstellar species group to talk about today. But that's the Trox. let's do one from Alien Archive 4. I'll do this page instead because it's a little bit more fitting here. And this is our good friends, the Tryziarka. Tryziarka. I probably butchered that to a degree. They originated on the world Sauron in the Vast. Their system star died. They built a lot of legacy starships, each which served as a self-contained biosphere capable of supporting life for the definite future. Basically, with these ships, they scattered across the stars, hoping to find new homes. They've got double-jointed elbows and knees, which lend greatly to their flexibility of their tall, hairless humanoid forms. Their skin has many hues, though many have molting of a second color across their body. In early childhood, each pairs with a magical ooze known as Karakonde in a symbiotic relationship. This ooze forms a faintly glowing tattoo-like pattern on the surface of their body and communicates with its host through empathic pulses of emotion and magic. They've bonded with these creatures since their days on Sauron, and they see these companions as an intrinsic part of themselves, and the magic they grant as part of their identities. They're about 7 foot tall, 250 pounds. Each of individuals' ooze tattoo manifests its own unique designs, and they can choose to imbue trusted others with their design, temporarily granting them a piece of their ooze's magic. Depending on the recipient's species and on the intent of both parties, the tattoo can become non-magical and even permanent, serving as a form of friendship, and often something deeper between the two creatures. Family members often trade tattoos, as do members of close-knit social units. So it doesn't just mean like, oh, I'm, in a relationship with someone for trading tattoos. It could be that we're in such a, we're bonded together that we're becoming something overly of a family when we weren't, and the way to represent that we've become family is to trade some tattoos. They have found some homes in uninhabited worlds, other from their legacy ships, other fatally crash-landed and succumbed to dangerous stellar phenomena, still others still travel from new worlds. So, bonus dex, wisdom, penalty, intelligence, flexible, tattoo magic, and tattoo transference. So, now, we have 2 more today. As I said, it wasn't going to be a super, super long day. Let's talk about this one, which is at the front of a book, which I'm 99% sure is an Undine. And it's the only Undine image that I could find for a Starfinder Undine image. So that was my challenge there. They're another extraplanar descendant. They're descendant of humanoids and beings who hail from the plane of water. They don't require water to live, though they do tend to settle near water and make ideal underwater explorers. And they were introduced stat-wise from the Dawn of the Crucible book, Adventure Path series, Book 6, Assault on the Crucible. That gave us an invocation for, of course, Undine. So if you want to check out that book there, bonus dex, wisdom, penalty, strength, cold resistance, dark vision, spell-like abilities, undying movement, water affinity, and some alternate racial traits that do exist. Now, for our final one today, we're going to talk about the Urog. There's an Urog for you as we finish up today. From Interstellar Species. Of course it's from Interstellar Species. They're from their homeworld is Daikon. They have a reputation of as brash know-it-alls outside of that planet who stay engaged only in a topic that interests them. Within their society, their lives of careful study show how they truly engage, sharing knowledge, avoiding the waste of precious energy by keeping conversations short, and leaving topics that require nuance to subject area experts. So basically, it's not that they're brash know-it-alls, it's that they believe themselves and understand themselves experts at what they have engaged in, and so will act with that kind of thing. They will be terse and short with things that they do believe themselves to be expert with. They don't want to waste energy on something that they don't think they know about, and they are all about sharing knowledge. So that's the other thing, is that's why they kind of tend to be know-it-alls. They're sharing their knowledge that they have. Not all of them call Daikon home, though. There's at least one concentrated settlement of them on Akatan's primarily worshipped Oras, as they expand their understanding of silicon-based life. They do make valuable members of starship crews, especially those that enjoy optimizing navigational routes. So, Their stats, because I always talk about that early in the Interstar Species book, because they provide them. Bonus to the con and penalty to charisma. They are large magical beasts. Blunt, electric resistance, electrolocation, limited telepathy, low light vision, plotting, skilled dark vision. Let's give their... they are silicon-based life forms. So they drastically differ physiologically than carbon-based ones. Their flesh is dense, heavy, translucent, supple yet firm, covered in tough shell scales. They're sometimes identified as an exoskeleton, these scales. They're actually extension of their segmented limbs, and see an exoskeletal label as a holdover from something that carbon-based beings would probably look to. Many other eccentricities come to a fundamental difference between carbon-based and silicon-based life. Urogs don't fight these misunderstandings. It's too much energy to correct people. Again, energy conservation and efficiency are biological imperatives for them. Their flesh is firm and mostly immobile at comfortable temperatures. They need to expend considerable energy to move their limbs. It doesn't really affect their mobility, as they typically move by using minute cilia to generate electromagnetic currents and float over the ground. Similar electromagnetic projects throughout their biology breaks down food into some electrostructure for consumption, making it that Urogs can consume almost any object. They prefer to easily consume plant life and minerals from their homeworld, since these are silicon-based structures and require less energy to digest. Their control over this process is precise at the molecular level, enabling them to consume choice nutrients and leave non-nutritive substances behind. For efficiency, they only keep their consumption field active to purposely break down food and safely carry delicate items. When inactive, their bodies settle into a resting state, and their shell scales hang over their limbs, making them appear as a scaled slug. When fighting, engaging directly with the environment around them, or otherwise exerting a lot of energy, they enter an active state, extending their breaking a beaked head stalk and unfurling their limbs that line their abdomen. In this state, their body temperature rises to make their joints more supple to move. Maintaining this state is taxing to their body, to the point that a single hour of this state requires the same energy as a single day in their resting state. This active state is typically reserved for academic study, life or death situations, reproduction, or interacting with other species. They control their laying of their shell scale as they return to their resting state. Successive combinations act as fashion statements, mood indicators, or personal identifiers. So basically, when their shell kind of reconfigures back and they go into resting state, the way they put that indicates things about them. They can manipulate their color by purposely consuming supplement materials. The change color ranges from iridescent tone to saturated dye, depending on the amount consumed, and fades over time. They're produced solely on daikon, and any witch that maintains the coloration typically stocks up when visiting, imports them through specialized mail-order outfits, or creates a unique blend and processes their own in locally accessible materials. The crystalline planet is one of the moons of the gas giant Pertheta. It's a silicon-based world. It's got a vast variety of plant life, which is most unique in the pack worlds due to its distinctive biochemistry. Unfortunately, because of their biological needs, there really isn't any world that could easily support them other than their home planet. They have taken a significant effort to catalog much of their native flora and fauna so they can maintain a well-tended moon. This planned ecosystem includes a balance between staple foods, medicinal plants, and necessary biodiversity to support the scarce fauna that live alongside them. This control is only possible because they've faced a few threats from the natural world, and they have political independence in all but name. They do fall under the leadership of Bretha and the planet's ruling body, the Confluence, but they leave the planet, the moon daikon, to govern itself. Their government, the Preeminence, is basically a panel of expert on areas of planetary concern. New experts are nominated for appointment by their research institutions whenever a previous member steps down, or planet decides a new perspective is required. And a lot of the planet is underdeveloped, but we'll leave the rest of that information if you want to kind of dive into it. So efficiency is important with them. They have to conserve energy, and so their culture is developed around this efficiency. They don't want to overexert them, so that's very important. Overexertion is a loss of energy that's needed for existence. Meals are prepared, the quickest consumption to renewal day, a single day dedicated to implementation of many low priority changes all at once. So everything. So it's like, the way your meal's prepared for the quickest consumption, and they've got this time that they basically, all these low priority changes are all put together at once in these things called renewal days. Social actions are similar. They extirpate conversation outside of close relationships. They focus on necessary information and avoid small talk. So basically, if you're in a close relationship, you might have small talk, but otherwise it's just boom, 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 business, necessary stuff. So yeah. Then again, there's more stuff and stuff about their education. The Daikon Replication Study Center and stuff that if you want to look more into them, I recommend checking out, again, Archives of Nethys or the Interstellar Species book, because there's a lot of information on them. But hey, that's it for today. We got through them. As I said, there was only like 10 today. There'll be 11 next time. So it's not going to be huge time talking about them. But I do enjoy talking about the creatures from the Alien Archives books and a lot of these things. The Starfinder species, that they unlock this massive amount of very interesting creatures that are very, honestly, alien. They have the option of kind of creating this massive selection of interesting and different things that you can play as from a lot of different types. And I really enjoy Starfinder because of it. It's a unique perspective and very enjoyable. So I always recommend checking out a lot of stuff when it comes to Starfinder. But anyway, I think that will technically be it then. Yeah, we'll leave it there. And we have one more of these that I'm going to do, and I'll probably come up with some more stuff for Starfinder related to chat about. But this is really the good stuff, and I do recommend checking it out. And we'll probably have some Starfinder in the future that we'll do. Definitely. I would not be against us having our opportunity to play it and run a game of it or something, or I dive more. Alright, I'm going to leave it here. Remember, if you want to check out stuff from me over the course of the week, you're looking for more tabletop stuff, it is on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday and Saturdays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, usually early afternoon. I was a little late today because of family stuff. Or on that's usually like probably around between 1 and 2. Saturdays, much more exact and around, of course, 11. So that's a much more exact time, and I would recommend checking it out then at there. And usually it's Pathfinder stuff on Thursdays, World of Darkness stuff on Saturdays, and variety of stuff like Starfinder here on Tuesdays. God, English just excuse me. Anything else to shout? I have a Discord and Twitter.com if you want to check out those links. I do gaming on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. The Crimson Queen, my live play of Pathfinder on Wednesday nights at 9, and discussing tabletop every Saturday at 6 in the evening for a little bit of podcast where we talk about tabletop stuff. Me and my friends. News of the week and deep discussion topics. Alright, that's all my shoutouts. And 11 more left for next time, which will take us from V all the way through Z. So it'll be a fun one to check out when we finish up. Okay. Hey everybody, I'm going to say to you all out there, farewell for now, everybody. Bye bye.